Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special edition of Dear Umair called Getting to the Root of It, right? So when I say it, here's what's coming to mind are the mega solutions that we need. Right now, big problems call for big solutions, right? Mega problems call for mega solutions. And so let me just give some examples, right? So the example in Marco's image showing these red and white boats, right? This is the mega solution of marine cloud brightening, right? Why is it a mega solution? Because with that, we can cool the planet in time. Okay, so it's a mega solution. In this case, it's a solution that addresses a singular problem, which is planetary overheating, which is the main driver of in aggregate, the majority of our planet's problems, driving drought, flooding, sea level rise, hurricanes, all manner of destruction, wildfires, forest fires, crop failures. It goes on and on. And so that's, again, a singular mega solution to a singular mega problem, which, of course, all these problems are interconnected and all the solutions are interconnected. But this is kind of a rare example of a mega solution which addresses a singular mega problem, which is planetary overheating. It also addresses other problems like the localized effects of that, like hurricanes and droughts and floods and things like that can also be ameliorated significantly by optimizing placement of these vessels around the world. We need about 1,000 of them. So yes, it also directly impacts other localized problems, but they all stem from overheating. These are all symptoms of overheating, right? So anyway, again, that's one mega solution, right? I'm just going to call it MCB for short, or marine cloud brightening, right? As the single most urgent mega solution right now, frankly, because if we don't solve this one, all the others are going to get worse exponentially, and it's not a pretty picture. There's other mega solutions. Alan, if you'd be good enough to show the image in your back. I know it's actually Marco's got it up there, so you don't need to. Marco's got an image of that. Thanks, Marco. Appreciate that. And this is an image of the community cafe that we started back in 2015. It has since evolved into Food Healers, which we happily share about here every Friday, 7 a.m. Pacific to 9 a.m. Pacific, and Friday evening, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Pacific, right here in the Zoom channel. So let's call it Food Healers by its modern name, but the image is the community cafe. Basically, we set up a community cafe in Rosamond, California, to feed the whole town, just to feed everyone for free, nutritious foods. And it just went crazy. It was so successful. And anyway, again, since then it's evolved, and now we're under the banner of Food Healers. Food Healers is a mega solution, feeding everyone nutritious, delicious, plant-based foods for free as a basic human right. Simple as that, right? Everyone deserves to eat 3 square meals a day, every day, without exception. And that needs to be plant-based foods for so many reasons. So this is a mega solution, Food Healers, right, which directly addresses 2 mega problems, not just one, but 2. One very much in the ecological and nature and Mother Earth, the realm of all of Mother Earth, all of life on Earth. And the other is in the realm of feeding everyone, ending hunger, ending malnutrition, right? Those are 2 huge mega problems, one very human, one very much of the world, but we address both with one singular mega solution, right? Which is called Food Healers, feeding everyone plant-based foods for free. It's transformational because that will cause way more conversation and therefore transformation around going plant-based, humans going on a plant-based diet, a permanent plant-based diet, right? Which is absolutely delicious, nutritious. Once you really try it, there's no going back. But for so many reasons, health reasons, but the main one that we're addressing is saving of life on Earth. You know, whether humans want to get obese or lose weight or whatever, okay, that's one thing, you know, and that's important, right? I'm not saying it's not important, but now consider hundreds of species going extinct every day. What, so that we can, you know, have this incredibly destructive diet, right? So anyway, food healers, right, as a mega solution, again, addressing two mega problems, hunger and the destruction of the biosphere, right? Literally, that's what's at stake here. The destruction of the biosphere is driven, you know, probably in aggregate terms, 90%, include 90+%. If you'll include the effects, direct effects on climate change, it's responsible for 87% of global warming, per Dr. Silas Rao, who's going to be joining us at COP26 just this next week. So yeah, very exciting times. But anyway, it's literally responsible for the destruction of the biosphere more than anything else, in that it's 87% of global warming, and it's probably 90+% of destruction, just direct destruction of biosphere, slash and burn, you know, logging, and then in order to create pasture land for cattle for people to eat, right? And then all the methane release and everything else. So that's why I say in aggregate terms, animal agriculture is responsible for about 90% of the problems in aggregate of our planet, right? So we've got a mega solution to address that directly, just destruction of the biosphere, right? And end hunger, right? So you see, we address two mega problems. I feel like I'm being a bit loquacious here. So let me pass the microphone before we get to the root of it, but I just wanted to kind of set the table. What's the it? Well, the it is we need these mega solutions. Right now I've pointed to two, which solve our biggest problems, just bam, solve them. They solve our three biggest aggregate problems, right? Not just hunger, but poverty. This is the best way to address extreme poverty. Feed people. And then we go from there. It'll start the dominoes tumbling, because once we see how easily and efficiently and powerfully we can feed everyone, there's no turning back. And they'll say, why don't we give them shelter too? It's raining out there, or it's hot out there, or whatever. I mean, it's obvious. And it's so efficient to do, so easy to do. So we've got a hand raised by Alan. Alan, what you got? Go for it.
It's just Marco had a really good idea today. I think it was Marco. When we've got all the breakout rooms, with what is it, 50 breakout rooms, we get all them filled. There's going to so many different topics and all. Why don't you suggest the Tuvan one where people come in and they explain how what they do that is self-sustaining. If they've got some system that they operate on and they've discovered that's self-sustaining, talk about it, because that would help to, because it's things that are not self-sustaining that are destroying the planet. So I thought that was brilliant. And that's me on mute.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I would say the intersection between what you just said, self-sustaining, but you also had a broader point, I think, about collective intelligence, having just, you know, filling up 50 breakout rooms, talking in parallel. And that's really the heart of what we want to talk about in terms of the root of it, which is collective superintelligence, or CSI for short, right? But first, let me address your points, and then I'll get to CSI. The main point I want to address again is the intersection between what you said about self-sustaining solutions and what I said, which is a focus on two mega solutions, right? Marine cloud brightening and food healers to feed everyone plant-based foods for free as an ongoing basic human right. The intersection is, let's make those solutions self-sustaining. Not just self-sustaining, but they need to grow exponentially to a point where they're really going to make a difference, really solve the problem, is what we're targeting. So once it hits its target, then it can just kind of plateau out from there, Because what are you going to do? Feed people twice as much food as what they need? No, you're going to hurt them. So we want to hit the target, exactly hit it 100%, and then sustain that, both for feeding everyone plant-based foods and for cooling the planet through marine cloud brightening, which is just the most efficient way to get this whole thing going. In parallel with a bunch of others, I don't want to steal the show entirely, because really we're going to need a combination of solutions all under the realm of solar radiation management, or SRM. But for now, just think of marine cloud brightening as probably the one that's going to get us there first. So again, let's make that self-sustaining, Alan, and everyone, right? Sounds like you got a follow-up point, a quick one, and then James has his hand up. Go ahead, Alan.
Will marine cloud brightening be a topic discussed at COB?
Oh my goodness, absolutely. Most of our posters are about marine cloud brightening. Professor Stephen Salter of University of Edinburgh, Scotland, we organized a press conference for him. Us with Dr. Silas Rao right here in this room a week ago exactly. We organized a press conference on November 6th in the afternoon, local time, morning, our time. I think it's 8 o'clock Pacific time, 4 o'clock Glasgow. Anyway, he's going to present, and we're going to be promoting his work like crazy, along with the other, two big things we're going to be promoting: food healers and collective superintelligence. And James has his hand up. Go for it, James. And Alan, unless you had something more to follow up.
It was just a question. What is the expected audience for the COB?
Oh, goodness.
Like live and broadcast as well?
Well, first of all, I think it's going to blow away all previous COPs, because right now we're in the midst of just exponential global warming. All the previous ones is like, oh, we might get there. We're there. It's the big news of the day. Hello, news flash. We're overheating exponentially. The last of the ice is melting. The forests are burning. Sea levels rising. Hurricanes are intensifying. Droughts are increasing. Food failure. Crop failures are becoming much more common. Whole continents are going ablaze. I mean, hello, news flash, right? So, COP supposedly is about the solution to all that. I say supposedly because they mostly focus on carbon emissions reduction, which is nowhere near the top two goals. No, carbon emissions reduction does not stop global warming. It actually accelerates it in the short term. And right now we got to think very short term, because we got to put out the fires. We got to stop the melting of the last of the ice. This is not a 10-year problem. This is like a 10-hour problem. We need to get on top of this in the next 10 hours. And I'm quite serious, right? So we've got to orient their focus on marine cloud brightening, top of the list of solar radiation management solutions, and on feeding everyone plant-based foods. It's as simple as that. And we're going to have this giant parade with these giant inflatable animals. I'll play a little video clip in a little bit here about that. But meanwhile, James has his hand up very patiently. Thanks for waiting, James. And please take it away. And show us yourself if you'd like, but only when you want, of course. No problem.
No, thanks. I'll pop on down in a second, but no, just in what you were saying there for Alan anyway, Professor Salt will be we invited to a press conference with Silas on the 6th, but he also has another invitation. He'll be doing another press conference with and talk with Tao as well, and a number of others about SRM and in general. And I think he have another engagement as well on either the 8th or the 9th as well at the COP. So I think he's going to be there about 3 days altogether anyway. So thankfully he'll be getting a bit of attention anyway. As regards to going out to who's going to be watching it, it's going to go out to the world, and there's millions going to be watching it. A lot more this time around than last time, I guaranteed. Just like Jim said, millions more people since the last one have been affected directly now by climate change, and their focus is on it now. So that should help. But in getting back to the point I was going to make, sorry, Jim, going back earlier, in regards to the Professor Salter's work there with the ships and with regards to feeding everyone, those are the two main dominoes that need to be pushed over, because as you said, there are many other solutions and things that need to be implemented. but they're the first two dominoes to push it over. But they'll never get pushed over without, as you were saying, the third and most important one, which is collective intelligence. And by that is everyone collectively getting together and, you know, come up with the solution or help push for these solutions and then help to get the others implemented. So it is the most important domino behind those two. Thanks.
No. Thank you. I totally agree, and that's why I framed this whole conversation at the very beginning. We've gone off two very important tangents, which are the two mega solutions, food healers and MCB. But from the very beginning, I said, let's get to the root of it, and you've articulated it very well, James. Thank you. We need to get to the root of it, which is collective superintelligence. We need to become collectively vast, I mean, like orders of magnitude more intelligent than we've been collectively operating up until now. Right now, the dominant, network of the collective in this world is globalization. It's money, it's capitalism, and it's destroying everything. It's like, what do all parts of our body have in common? They all have cancer. What's the cancer? Globalization, neoliberalism, capitalism, call it what you will, hoarding, unbridled hoarding, and a complete destruction of the collective, right? So yes, there's collective intelligence that arises from this. You could look at the global economy and say, wow, it's so intricate and it's so efficient and this and that. Yeah, efficient at what? Eliminating life on Earth. Whoops, right? It's like you've got this super powerful, it's very powerful capitalism. And it can be used in very powerful ways. I make the analogy of a tunnel boring machine, right? You've got this giant tunnel boring machine that's just so efficient. You can just drive it anywhere you want, like Elon Musk creating these tunnels under Los Angeles. Kind of cool. Revolutionary, certainly. But it's like you got this powerful, and you've got a remote controller, and you say, go, bzz, and the thing just starts going, bzz, except you realize that instead of going in the direction you want, it's going the opposite direction, which is toward you. You got your back against this jagged granite wall, and the tunnel boring machine is coming towards you. It's very powerful, very efficient. It's just we've got it pointed in the wrong direction, which is omnicide. Omnicide that way, holistic health for all life on Earth this other way. We got it pointed simply in the wrong direction. Alan, I think you had, and so we need collective superintelligence to literally reverse direction of the tunnel boring machine and take it in a positive direction. But anyway, that's waxing philosophical, which I don't really want to do today. Let's get back to the practical. But first, Alan has his hand up, followed by Michael. Go for it, Alan.
I heard the name Paul McCartney flying around the last couple of days.
Oh yeah. Here, let me give an overview.
That was all I was going to say, by the way. Just dear Paul McCartney.
We're kind of doing it backwards, and it's my fault. I should have started with the big picture of what we're doing at COP. So give me an opportunity, please, to do that. I'll just give an overview of what we're all doing at COP and what to look out for and how to participate. Okay. But first, so let me make a note of that. I'll talk about that next. But first, Michael had his hand up, and then I'll get back to the main thread, which is getting to the root of it. Okay, go ahead, Michael.
Excuse me. Yes. I've been otherwise engaged, but I did want to go back to new developments on the project with regard to the Concert for Earth.
Yeah, we're going to hold that. We're going to hold that for after the COP. I think we need the COP 26 update.
Oh yeah, that's priority. Okay, thank you.
And then we'll talk about the concert. Okay, but prior to both.
Yeah, I sent an email regarding that. I wondered if that arrived.
Yeah, no. Let's talk about personal logistics and personal communication. Here, I'll just.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
All right, welcome, Jamie. And after a quick update to Jamie, we're resuming recording. And what we covered is basically, look, we've identified what are obviously the two most important mega solutions, right? MCB and food healers, making them go planetary. And what we need to accomplish that is what I'm calling a meta solution, right? So think of this golden egg as representing like either MCB or, food healers or any other mega solution. We need a lot of, I'm not just saying it all stops there. And you could say, well, what about the plastics? Okay, great. You know what? By feeding everyone in volume, with reusable everything, literally reusable everything, right? That's the best way to eliminate plastic. So boom, see, food healers solves so many problems at once. Anyway, but I digress. You got food healers, you got MCB, you got many other mega solutions, right? Many of which, like I said, like with the plastics, they're embedded within, mega solutions that are already on the table. It's not like we need a separate solution for that. You follow me? So many good things come from these two mega solutions: marine cloud brightening and food healers, MCB and food healers. So how do we get these golden eggs? You can say, well, we already got them, so shut up. No, we have the idea, but we need to now take it to full scale planetary implementation, both of them, MCB and food healers. So we need the goose that lays these giant golden eggs, each of which are basically worth the entire planet, because that's what's on the table. We need two big golden eggs for starters, among many others. This is what we call the meta solution. The meta solution is the goose. The meta is the goose. It's the thing that gives birth to the golden eggs. What we want are golden eggs. I'm like, if I could just drive down to 7-Eleven, give me 2 planetary sized golden eggs, please. And they say, sure, that'll be 79 cents. I would do it, right? I wouldn't hold back. But you know what? I don't see it at the menu at 7-Eleven or any other drive-through, right? Let's call them drive screws, because we're screwing the planet. And there's not a single drive through or drive screw or drive any, there's just nowhere where do you get the golden eggs? What I'm proposing is that we need a goose who can lay these golden eggs, many golden eggs of many different shapes and sizes. Well, hopefully only one shape, but many different sizes. And to get there, what is that goose? The goose is collective intelligence. Right? See, we've got all these conversations happening all over the world. And I'll just make a little analogy before I characterize the network of conversations that exist at present. I don't know if any of you know of the small town in the East Bay of the San Francisco Bay Area called Piedmont. It's the wealthiest community in the East Bay by far. It's like the Bel Air / Beverly Hills of the East Bay. But unlike Beverly Hills or Bel Air in Southern California, it's very walkable. Anyone can just basically, go there, go for a walk, whatever. And so a friend of mine who lives there calls it a gated community without the gate. Get it? It's a gated community without the gate. I wanted to give that framing because here's what I call this network of conversations. This one here, all these conversations happening, how there's just all these great conversations happening on Zoom about health, about healing, about ending racism, about economic transformation, any topic you want under the sun, there's a conversation about it. So there's this vast network of conversations. Only one problem. It's a network of conversations without the network. It's a network of conversations without the network. In other words, they're disconnected. It's as simple as that, right? So what we need to proclaim at Glasgow most urgently and above and beyond anything else in terms of the singular action item is help create, help build the network of conversations, right? Help network it, right? It's kind of like everyone's got this beautiful handset at home, rotary telephone, but the phones aren't connected. We've all got the capacity. I mean, it's all here. It's just, that's a weak example because it's like all we need to do is add this. It's almost like adding a little speck of, yogurt powder or whatever to a big vat of milk, pardon the plant-based milk, excuse me. Let's take oat milk. And you add a speck of powder and it grows exponentially into yogurt, right? We're looking for that trend. All this needs is we're already connected in terms of the technology. We don't have to wire anything to anything else. Nothing needs to be built. Jewel is entering the phone. Sorry, entering the room. We'll pause. Hey, everybody. So we're back after a pause. Welcome back, everyone. So we, have been, just to recap super briefly, we have the mega solutions. We need 2 urgent mega solutions, which are up on the screen right now: Community Cafe / Food Healers and Marine Cloud Brightening, or MCB. And what we most urgently need is to bring these mega solutions to full planetary scale implementation. Think of those solutions as these golden eggs. We need the meta solution. We need the goose that lays the golden eggs. The golden eggs are solutions. We need basically a solution generating thing, right? And the goose is the metaphor for it. Absolutely no geese have been harmed in the making of this video. Quite to the contrary, actually. We're all about saving the geese, saving all life on Earth. And that goose, metaphorical goose, is the network of conversations. And right now, gazillions of conversations are happening all over Zoom and, Clubhouse. And then Spotify launched something similar to Clubhouse. And, Reddit's been around since before some of the people on this call were born. And, so it's like, yeah, conversations are happening, but they're totally disconnected. There is no map of the conversations, much less an invitation to join a given conversation, right? It's like each of us is just beating our own rusty, garbage can with half a baseball bat, trying to get the world's attention, when what is urgently needed is an open source, non-proprietary, decentralized, and I'm not just foaming at the mouth here, right? These are actual really important words, so it's worth writing them down, right? Open source, in other words, it's just totally transparent. There's no like Facebook demon algorithms in the background, right, harming young girls in order to make, some white people rich, right? I mean, it's just absolutely absurd. So the opposite of that is just totally open source. Everything's open, from the meetings that are happening about the platform to every last line of code, totally open, right? So open source, decentralized, not owned by anyone, not controlled by anyone. This is very, very important. So, and it occurs to me that one of the best ways to do that would be to put it up on a blockchain so that all the data is completely unmessable with. Find the best way to do that. And, massively parallel, fault tolerant, all these good things. And then you have a network of conversations that everyone can feel good about, right? Because it's just totally open. It's kind of like the FM waves in the atmosphere, not a perfect example, but anyone can get a tower and start broadcasting. Local radio, FM, AM, there's lots of different. So think of it something like that. Like, who would be like opposed to AM radio? Just turn off the, turn it off if it's bothering you, kind of thing. So we need something kind of as open as that, or almost kind of like the internet. We need an internet of conversations that is highly networked and designed for intense networking along the lines of what we're going to be talking about in the next couple of minutes. I just want to encapsulate it, one scenario. For me, it's kind of the obvious scenario, right? And that is where you have a bunch of conversations happening in parallel that all know about each other. And in fact, they've all come together in agreement. They've agreed to be a network, to proclaim themselves as a network. right? So I guess one of the things that's missing is a proclamation of network of conversations. That sounds about as sexy as my toilet seat. So why don't we come up with something better? But the idea anyway is a proclamation of a network of conversations, right? Okay.
A
So-
golden,
Huh?
a goal pages of change makers with the
So
intention to share.
so so I think Trove is probably the thing that's kind of come closest to this. But Trove is centralized, it's not decentralized. So basically think Trove, but like on the blockchain, open source that different people can contribute to. Something like that is, I think, what we're really talking about. But I mean, that's part of it, right? Let every change maker have their own page, like up on Trove, for example. But I'm only using it as an example. I am promoting Trove. I think it's great. I love to use Trove, and I highly recommend it to you and everyone else, because short of what we're talking about, we have to go with what we've got. If we're floating in the ocean and the water is cold, get on top of the biggest floating log you can for starters, and then get to a ship, right? So for starters, get on Trove, right? And then on Trove and on, see, because I think the way we need to go about this, everybody, is we need to acknowledge that a whole bunch of cool networks already exist. Trove is a network that already exists, right? Humanity Rising is building a network, right? That was mentioned earlier, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But I think the heart of it, the root of it, as to how do we get this network of conversations to actually become a network, is to first start building connections between and across the various different networks. And that's not always easy. And I hate to say this, but it's not always safe either. So I'll give an example. So there's a network which is roughly in the same part of the universe as Humanity Rising in terms of, networking people and hosting conversations and meetings and broadcasts and things like that. That is, generally understood to be transformational. Humanity Rising is transformational. This other network that I'm talking about, not to be confused with Stan Pockras's other networks, but this other network I'm talking about, when I very open-heartedly worked with them on helping them promote their thing that they were doing, and then I talked about doing this big open source thing, they launched a series of character assassination attempts against me. And this is significant to point out, because although this is very extreme, I don't think this is like a common thing that happens all the time. It did happen, and it's actually ongoing to the extent that they haven't retracted the lies that they've floated out there publicly. They haven't retracted them. And if anything, they've reinforced them. So the point is that not everyone is going to be happy when they see you going in the direction of a totally open source network of conversations. It basically spells the death of Facebook, right? Because Facebook it's not a log to float on; it's a giant turd, right? And it's infested with corruption, misogyny, greed, hoarding, lies, manipulation. No, seriously. Right, and yet people keep using it because, well, there's nothing else to float on. I want to talk to my friends, and it's the best way to do it. Okay, I get it. I'm not condoning it, but I get it, right? As soon as we create this vastly better way, it's going to be like, I don't know, the Queen Mary or something compared to a giant floating turd, with Mosquito Coast and COVID and everything else. No, it's going to be like a luxury Queen Mary where everyone has a safe place. Safety is crucial. Getting to safety is going to take some work. And in my case, some character assassination attempts against me, a whole series of them, like really brutal ones, really, really brutal. And the thing is, if it were true, if the things that they said were true, that'd be one thing, right? I got no problem with the truth. But they made up these lies. They made up these really horrific lies against me. And again, this is a network of people and a network of conversations that I actually believe is transformational fundamentally. But it's that they mixed greed and hoarding and ego and ownership and centralization with transformation and tried to basically monetize it. Well, they are monetizing it, right? Anyway, I point that as an example because these are the kinds of things. Again, that's an extreme example. I'm not saying that's rampant or anything. And I'm not even saying that they've done that to anyone else that I know of in particular. But the very fact that it happened for no other reason than we launched the conversation and then the press conference, and as ways of kind of helping foment and facilitate this broad networking of the non-network of conversations, right? It was met with stiff resistance, let's just call it that. So there's going to be resistance. Why? Because there are vested interests in not just the status quo in terms of communication and social media, but in terms of the whole oil and gas and coal sectors, the meat industry, the automotive sector, right? The government sector itself. The government is trying to self-perpetuate itself, but it's become this tool of omnicide, tool of capitalism, tool of infinite hoarding and infinite destruction of a finite planet, right? Anyway, I think I've made my points. So what's my bottom line takeaway? My bottom line takeaway is that our message at Glasgow and throughout Dear Umair and beyond, that our message should be very simple. Come, help build the network of conversations, emphasis on network. Help get us together in an open source, decentralized, probably blockchain, founded way, right? A decentralized autonomous. We need to kind of create this as a decentralized autonomous thing. That these are the rules. This is what it's all about, and it takes off on its own without anyone owning it. All right, let's pause briefly. All right, after a pause, and if you want to, let's pause real quick. All right, after a little pause, let me just synthesize. What's the bottom line? The bottom line is, my name is Jamin Shively, and I'm here to recruit you, dear Umair, you, Umair's audience, you world, you, whoever's watching this video, wherever you are, anywhere around the world, no matter where you're coming from. I'm here to recruit you to help us build the network of conversations. Right? There's really, what that really means in practical, there's all these networks of conversations all over the place, including Humanity Rising, including the other network that I didn't name, including all the other networks in Stan Pokras's othernetworks.org, if I'm saying the URL correctly, right? Just Google other networks, Stan Pokras, P-O-K-R-A-S, the Irish spelling. Well, the Irishmen seem to be taking over these days. There's certainly an Irish invasion coming up for COP, and this is probably a good moment to transition the conversation to COP. But if anyone has anything to add or subtract or change to the conversation about recruiting people, and I know it's very fuzzy, like in practical terms, well, what do you want me to do? Well, the first thing is, if you're not in a network of conversations already, join a network. If it's Humanity Rising, join Humanity Rising. If it's ours, it's ours. If it's this other network, God help you, right? But let's, get into a network of conversations. Step number 2, if you're in a network of conversations, or when you're in a network of conversations, right? Take steps as a member of that network of conversations to move that network in greater and greater communion with the others, right? And join the open source, decentralized, blockchain centric movement. We need a name for that, right? I don't know, let's call it the network of conversations movement, right? Why not? Anyway, I think that's the single most important thing we can accomplish at Glasgow, period. Why? Because once we have that, as we accelerate the growth and the networking of the network of conversations, turning it into a true network, right? There's a name, True Network. Turning it into a true network of conversations that are transformational, right? Anyway, with that, I pass the talking feather, and please say whatever you have to say. There's no particular hurry here. And then whenever we're done with this segment of the conversation, I've got a very exciting update on COP that's coming up next. And that'll kind of help put this whole thing in perspective, I think, because the message without the medium is kind of pointless. Now imagine everything we've talked about up till now, the imperative to help join the movement, to build the network of conversations. That imperative, right, needs a medium. The medium is COP26, and I'll talk more about that when I take on the talking feather again. Meanwhile, we got Alan. Go for it, Alan.
Yeah, as I was saying earlier, we should have recorded what we were speaking about earlier. It was really beneficial. It's the very question you just asked there. How do we get more people? How do we build and improve? And is Marco around? Marco, what were we talking about? That was a great conversation. What were some of the suggestions and ideas that people were coming up with?
Yeah, we should have recorded that. No, there was basically it was, what do we need to do to maximize the fact that Jamin and the others are going to be there? And I guess one of the things was we're talking about doing more live streaming in more than one place, as much as possible. And I don't know, I have notes, but I'm not near my computer right now. I'm trying to cook some food here.
I remember part of what we said, because it was my contribution, the Facebook lives, lives on YouTube's good, because if you've got like 1 million subscribers, that reaches a huge audience, and people get to see that. But YouTube, I don't know how other people use it, but YouTube, the way I use it is I search for what I want to look at, as opposed to go for the recommendations or what pops up. And even though I've subscribed to certain channels, I never ever see them unless I go hunting for them. So it's not easily found, but it can be useful if you get massive, like a huge following. It's very useful. But Facebook, you can go on Facebook, and then you can invite everybody who's in the room for the first 5 minutes. Say, okay, everybody share it to 10 groups each, and share it with some of you, as many of the friends as Facebook allows you to share it with, and we'll get everybody on board. And once we've got a nice big audience, we'll get started. People do that for 5 minutes, and they get great big audiences of 100 within a few seconds, and it just starts to increase and increase because the people have shared it, and all the people are seeing it. Because it's a live video being broadcast, it actually pops up in your notifications with a small preview of the video, and people see it and say, oh, what's that? That's a conversation. That's actually happening now, and they can actually go and join and see and maybe even speak. And pass the talking feather to whoever's next.
Looks like Jewel is next. No, that's a great idea, Alan. And you know what? Let's implement that in Glasgow, and come join us. And then whenever you want, Alan, I invite you to take the microphone, the public microphone, and say, hey.
Oh, just one thing, I was actually saying that as well. I've got a camera tripod, and I want to stand beside Darth Vader and film him and do a live Facebook broadcast, and ask all of my, on my other phone, I'll take 2 phones with me, on my other phone, invite everybody to share and groups and everything. And we could get a big audience on the day, if that's okay with you.
Oh my goodness, more than okay. And see, the cool thing, you know what, Alan, you know what I love about you making that call? You're a Scot. You're a Scot on a horse with a sword who's just had a couple of shots of Lagavulin, and you're on fire. Jewel's got her hand up. But
one last comment. Freedom!
Sounds good to me. So,
love it, Alan. Yes, please, Jewel, take it away.
okay, So hello. And yes, me and Marco have the same background. But anyway, I was actually thinking because everybody was like saying that it should have been recorded. But if this is being shared on YouTube and it's live streaming, isn't there a way to like capture that video still?
Oh, it's being captured. It's being recorded there live on YouTube, and it's being recorded here on my hard drive. And then I'm going to publish it on my YouTube channel. But here, I'll put the link once again in the chat. Feel free to blast out that link.
Yeah, I was
Feel free
just
to-
more so saying for everybody that was saying that the conversation should have been recorded or captured earlier. I'm like, isn't it still technically captured?
No, everything we're saying is being
That's-
captured in two different places, Jewel. So
Yeah.
we're already doing what he was saying we should have been doing earlier. And rather than, anyway, the
No
point
worries.
was made. The point is, let's just keep recording. Let's not.
Yeah.
That's the takeaway, I'd say, from that. And great to
The
see you,
only
Jewel.
bit-
Thank you so much for being here.
The only,
Thank
bit,
you.
the only bit there that we're not doing is the 5 minutes of telling everybody, say, okay, everybody share, and go to Facebook and post to all your friends the YouTube link. And although a YouTube link doesn't pop up as a preview, or does it? Maybe it does. And probably Facebook doesn't, because they don't like Facebook, doesn't like YouTube. I don't know. Anyway, yeah, that's the only bit that we really need to incorporate a lot more of, is even if we do it once and we all of us here know about it, but it's just if we've got new people coming in, talking to new people coming in.
Hey, we've got a Leafy in the waiting room. Somebody remind me who a Leafy is.
The name is familiar to me, but I could be wrong.
Put a doctor in front of it. Dr. Leafy, a woman, I think a veterinarian.
And
All right.
Milan,
Should we let her in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, she's
Okay, great. Thanks, everybody. Oh, and we are recording. I'm going to pause recording. All righty. So great comments, everyone. Really awesome comments and questions. I'd like to present about COP, but I first want to pause and create space for anyone else who wants to jump in with a question or a comment or a proposal or anything related to the big picture we've just been talking about. Let's review. We need the golden eggs. We need the goose that lays the golden eggs. That's the network of conversations. The network of conversations is awesome, except it's missing the network part of the network. It's a network of conversations without the network. And that hence the imperative, build the network of conversations, because as we build it, it will exponentiate. It will exponentiate. It will absolutely exponentiate. Okay. And as it does, yeah, go ahead.
I'll just say that if someone's just summing up on that, I'll just say, so it's time for us to get off the floating turd, grab onto the floating log that's passing by, which is Trove, and that's the beginning of where we're trying to get to. But that's the beginning, and join the conversation here in the Zoom room here, and that get in any conversation. But once you're in conversation, get the conversations connected. We'll get off the turd first.
Well, you know what we could do, and speaking of the turd, and I could draw a picture of this, but imagine we have a poster that shows a giant floating turd, and it says Facebook on it, and it's got a bunch of people, climbing on, hanging on, getting all covered with stuff, and then in the background, a giant Queen Mary luxury ship, right? That is where we want to get to, and then show like a few people leaving the turd by rowboat to get to the Queen Mary. That's what we're recruiting people to join us in, is the flotilla of rowboats from the giant floating turd called Facebook, right, to the Queen Mary, right, of saving, healing, and transforming life on Earth through a true network of conversations. All right, back up to speed here. So we've got these, I was just recapping, we got these mega solutions. So one is cooling the planet through what's called marine cloud brightening, or MCB. The other is feeding everyone. You see that image Marco has of a community cafe, right? And that was the beginning of a whole process, which has resulted in food healers, which is about making plant-based foods for everyone a basic human right. Great for your health, absolutely essential for saving life on Earth, absolutely essential. So with those two mega solutions, marine cloud brightening and food healers, the solutions, you know, exist in the sense that the idea exists and how to do it. We know how to do it, and you know, we know all this stuff about it, but we don't know how to bring these mega solutions to life, okay, and get them implemented at planetary scale, basically everywhere, all around the world. That's going to take a lot of doing. That's what I talk about a complete solution. See that big solution at the bottom there? I'm talking about a complete solution, thorough, implemented, full-scale implementation of marine cloud brightening, full-scale implementation of food healers. Oh, Candace is joining. And again, we're going to increasingly just kind of go with the flow. But let me pause quick. All right, after a brief pause, welcome, Candace. So cool to see you here. You know, Candace, we've been having a really cool meeting up until now, but guess what, Candace? With you here, now it's perfect. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And I encourage you to just jump in with any questions or comments at any time. And let me pause again because we have Dominique. All right. Welcome, Dominique. And welcome, Canvas and Michelle and Jewel, all of our recent newcomers to this, relative newcomers to, first of all, the block party. We have a 24-hour collective intelligence block party every Friday, Saturday. And sometimes we have serious meetings like this one where we're just like totally on point and I'm presenting a bunch of cool information and people are asking questions and making comments. Other times it's more just like flowing, just people literally just like hanging out. Hey, you should see this video, and people like share videos and stuff like that. Anyway, the synopsis goes as follows. Of all the problems in the world, our three biggest mega problems are exponential planetary overheating, people going hungry and malnourished, and large-scale animal agriculture, which is destroying the ecosystems, forests, water supplies, just destroying the planet, destroying the biosphere. Those are the big three: cooling the planet, feeding everyone, and getting all of humanity to change over to an entire plant-based diet. So if those are the three, and this is just a synopsis, any one of these points is a whole, 10-hour conversation in itself. But each of those three, goals requires specific solutions, right? Cooling the planet, ending hunger, and going plant-based require solutions. The two biggest solutions that actually together accomplish all three goals are the one behind Marco's head, which is about cooling the planet through marine cloud brightening, which is a very technical and fascinating topic, which I highly recommend to everyone. The other mega solution is what's behind Alan's head, and now my head, which is community cafes, which evolved to become food healers, about feeding everyone plant-based foods, making plant-based foods a basic human right. Making food a human right, not just a human need, but a human right. Okay, that's what's on the table here fundamentally. Making food a basic human right through feeding everyone. I mean, it's like really simple. Feeding everyone plant-based food. So we create this super awesome plant-based stews. We're currently doing this in different places in Los Angeles and Arizona, and it's really taking off. But it's one thing to have the idea of these solutions and even some prototypes of these solutions. It's another thing to have these solutions actually implemented, hence the following picture. You see the goose that lays the golden egg down here? The golden eggs represent the solutions, not just the ideas of the solutions, but the solutions actually implemented all around the world. Everybody with me? Does anyone have a doubt about what a solution is? If you do, feel free to speak up. And so if we need these solutions, which are golden eggs, we need the goose. Can somebody get me a goose? We need the goose that lays the golden eggs. We need that which will generate these solutions, which is kind of a crazy concept. People usually go straight to, well, we need to do this. And they feel like they've done their part just by speaking up or writing a blog post or something like that. Sound familiar? Right? Well, okay. Newsflash. We need more than the idea of the solution. Thank you, Candace. We need more than the idea of the solution. We need it fully implemented throughout the world. So no, Sherlock, your work is not done. Our work is not done until we have this fully implemented throughout the world. So no, we don't have the golden egg yet. We have the idea of the golden egg, but we need the actual golden egg. So what's radical is to say we need the goose. No one ever talked about geese. People talk about solutions all the time. Again, they're going straight for the egg. What, are you going to birth the egg? Right? No. We need a goose to birth the egg. Thank you, Jewel. We need a goose. Can we get a goose? All right. Well, I have a fancy name for the goose, which is the meta solution. And with that, I mean, as simple as you see here on the screen, that which gives birth to the golden eggs. So when you hear a meta solution, just think the goose. It's as simple as that. Just think the goose. Okay. So what's the goose? The goose is the network of conversations. Now, this probably isn't your first rodeo. This probably isn't your first time in a Zoom room where we're talking about changing the world, cooling the planet, ending hunger, getting everyone to change their diet. Yes, even on, Sunday afternoon barbecues. There's all kinds of great vegan solutions. They're not really solutions yet because they're super expensive. And basically you have to be, well-to-do or better or wealthier in order to, partake. Hence the free food. We need to make this free, a basic human right. Right. Anyway, that's why food healers, right, is precisely the solution, right? Feed everyone for free. So, okay, so how do we get the goose? Where do we get the goose? Right? Where we get the goose is by recognizing that the goose itself is a network of conversations. The network of conversations exists, and there's all these great Zoom conversations happening all over the place. It's just that we're totally disconnected. Connection is what makes the network. We're disconnected. We're like the unnetwork. Those of you who, like me, weren't born yesterday will remember the 7-Up ads in the 1970s and 80s where they proudly called themselves the Uncola, right? Yeah, okay. Well, we have the unnetwork. We have the 7-Up version of a network of conversations, and we need the real thing. Ain't that the truth? No, seriously. Ain't that the truth? We need the real thing. We need what I'm calling the true network of conversations. And that's a deep, see, all these are deep subjects. How the heck are those red boats spraying mist seemingly into the ocean? How on earth, does that constitute How does that cool the planet? That's a deep subject. How do you get food healers, community cafes all around the world? That's a deep subject. Alice, welcome. So just picking up where we last paused, welcome everyone. Welcome all newcomers, especially. Newcomers, welcome. How do we bring the world's, in order to have the solutions that you see up on the screen in some of the still images, how do we both perfect those solutions and get them implemented all around the world? How do we do that? That's a big question, right? And so we've kind of gone off onto the theoretical a little bit, but it really helps me anyway to say, okay, if we need these big solutions, how do we perfect them and get them implemented? Those are two different tasks, of course. But for both ideation, the perfection of ideas and the implementation of these perfected ideas, I'm saying that we can get a goose. Get a goose. You know what? I like that. Let that be a thing. Get a goose. I think we can get a goose. We can get the goose that lays the golden eggs of all these solutions. And that's called a network of conversations. Right now, a gazillion conversations exist on Zoom and Clubhouse and elsewhere. And a lot of them are like really cool. Like, I think this is a pretty cool conversation personally. I don't know about you, but I think this is pretty cool. But the problem is all these conversations are completely disconnected. So we've come up with a radical solution idea. It's not perfected, but we have the idea of a vast network of conversations, and we're talking about how to accelerate that. And one of the big ways is through COP. So I'm kind of itching to spill the beans about COP 26 in Glasgow, where several of us are participating. So if you're cool with me sharing some stuff about COP, give me a thumbs up. If you have something to say first, give me a thumbs down, and that's cool. Or just jump in if you have something to say or ask.
Just for your information, your voice was breaking up a little bit on 3 points there. It's better now, but just if there's anything you can do or anything you know that might be causing it, so don't miss anything.
Okay, I might just go off camera for a little bit. Anyway, okay, great. So let's continue then. Let me share this really cool video from Dr. Silas Rao, who's he's my favorite of the awesome vegan leaders of the world, of whom there are many, many, many who I love. Dr. Silas Rao is my favorite of all. He is just incredible. So check out, everybody see this video? Okay, see the cow? All right.
Methane is a greenhouse gas that causes climate change.
So much is being emitted that life on Earth is collapsing.
Know where most of it comes from? Me. But it's not my fault. It's yours.
There are over 1 billion cows now.
To feed us, you tear down forests to create new grazing land. But we need trees to capture greenhouse gases. The climate disaster is human-made, not cow-made. But you can slow it. You can stop it. You must stop eating meat.
Me too.
A plant-based diet is good for all us animals and the climate. You can make a difference. Transform to a plant-based diet.
And the British government came to negotiate with him. It only took 12 years for that simple act to change and to create a social movement.
Okay, I can't hear that terribly well, but anyway, any questions or comments about that awesome video before I talk about something really exciting? All right, here's what's super exciting. Dr. Silas Rao and company are bringing 4 giant blow-ups physical, like you'd see at the Macy's, parade or whatever in New York City in 1975. He's bringing 4 giant blow up animals: cow, pig, chicken, and fish. And we're gonna have those animals. Our group, the folks you're talking to right here, are going to be operating those animals from the 7th through the 12th. So the last 6 days of the conference, we've got full control over 3 of those animals: the pig, the chicken, and the fish. Silas is going to have the cow inside of COP, but we're going to have the other 3 outside of COP, and we're going to be parading them around in the sun, in the rain, with music. I'll be dressed as Darth Vader, right? And as such, we're going to be singing and dancing very much along the lines of, here, I'll just play a quick little excerpt of me with my mom and my sister Betty at the University of Washington, even before I hit play. Is that cool or what? There I am, dressed as Darth Vader. See the shadow in the background? That's the shadow of the statue of George Washington right on my shoulder. There's my mom, there's my sister Betty. And let's play the excerpt. It's catching up here.
Drug cartels, criminal drug cartels, criminal drug cartels will cut you down. You won't get up again, so you better get out of town. We'll cut you down. You won't get up again, so you better get out of town. We'll cut you down. You won't get up again, so you better get out of town. We'll cut you down. You won't get up again, so you better get out of town. Criminal drug cartels. Criminal drug cartels. Criminal drug cartels. Criminal drug cartels will cut you down. You won't get up again, so you better get out of town. We'll cut you down. You won't get up again, so you better get out of town. We'll cut you down.
All right, you get the idea? So that Darth Vader, same exact costume, but different signage, right? We've got signs with the red and white sailing vessels that produce the marine cloud brightening. We got signs about food healers and feeding everyone plant-based foods, right? But we're going to be singing in Spanish. I love singing Spanish love songs. There's a whole bunch that I'd love to sing. Don't get me started or I'll sing one right now. But anyway, we're going to be singing in Spanish and English and whatever other languages, because it's going to be a big cultural fair, right? Come right up. What song would you like to sing? We'll put on the background music, right? We got a very unprofessional DJ. That's me. Hopefully James and Jamie and Alan can bring some professionalism to it. Anyway, oh, before I forget, Alan, I hope you'll stay with us. We got places in Glasgow. Anyway, and everyone's welcome. So just come one, come all. But meet us in Glasgow and be a part of it. We're going to have these giant Macy's fair parade, whatever size animals, carrying them all around Glasgow with me dressed as Darth Vader, singing Spanish love songs, promoting not only the solutions, but the meta solution, the goose that lays the golden eggs, the network of conversations. And the singular ask is, help us build the network of conversations. Help us build the networking. Help us build the invisible spider's web that the Charlotte's Web. Help us build the Charlotte's Web. How do you like them apples? the Charlotte's Web.
Jamin,
Yeah.
I hope I remember what I was going to say. The beautiful thing about the Darth Vader is it's the whole message behind it of how ultimate evil can, in the end, turn to good.
Exactly. That's right. That's what I was talking about with turning the tunnel boring machine around. There's nothing inherently wrong with, systems. Okay, even systems that manufacture and transport stuff. Nothing inherently wrong with that. But we got to get it pointing in the right direction. And the first major transformations are two. Number one, include food healers, community cafes in all communities around the world, serving nothing but the most nutritious, delicious plant-based foods to all people for free, period, as a basic human right. Now, how to accomplish that? That's where we get into conversations about that. Please join those conversations. We need you there. If you're interested, we need you there, literally. And it's actually as simple as that. Secondly, we need to cool the planet with marine cloud brightening. And we get to do both of these with the same networking infrastructure, the same internet as evil Facebook, right? The same internet as evil Facebook. That's Darth Vader taking off his helmet, losing the act and being the real human being and the real father again, saying, my son, I love you. And, let's do something good. Maybe I have to die, whatever, but let's do something good. So the old ego has to die. The old shell, it was a false shell anyway, of ego and infinite hoarding, right? And we're replacing it with a beautiful manifestation of the collective, including, but not limited to, collective intelligence, right? So, the network of conversations is not everything. It's not the be all end all. It's just the next missing piece in the tumbling dominoes of progress, swimming upstream in a river of shit, which is, Facebook and basically capitalism and what they've done to our precious democracy in the United States, such as it was, what they've done to civil rights, human rights, of all different kinds. It's horrific, right? So we're swimming upstream up a river of shit called Facebook, right? But we're also using that river in which to swim, in which to make progress upstream to get to the Queen Mary, per the analogy I was talking about earlier. We'll have to draw some pictures at some point. In fact, not a bad idea. I can do that in a few minutes because the map is getting quite extended. Wouldn't that help? Does anyone think that would help, or would that be like, oh no? No, let's talk a little bit more about COP first, and then we can get as philosophical as we want. All right. Any questions or comments about our plans at COP? We're going to be there from November 1st through November 14th. In Glasgow, with massive signage, music, lighting.
Do you have special guests appearing with you?
Well, yes. Well, starting with we got James Desmond representing Ireland, right? We've got Alan Bell representing Scotland. We've got Jamie Gilchrist representing the United States of America. You've got Jamin Shively representing Mexico. You've got, who else we got? And you don't have to represent countries. You can represent anything you want to represent. I'm also representing Marine Cloud Brightening and Food Healers Community Cafes, right? Any other comments or questions? And feel free. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's all about conversation. Let's just let it flow. Let's just hand the talking feather around. I've talked too much anyway. Passing around the feather. Go ahead, James.
Well, we also have Dr. Silas Rowe has also got Paul McCartney as well for the 5th as well, just in support of the plant-based diet.
Oh yeah, Paul McCartney is going to warm up. This is true. We organized a press conference for Professor Stephen Salter to present his marine cloud brightening solution, the one behind Marco's head. That one with the floating boats and all that. What floats your boat? And he's Professor Stephen Salter. Paul McCartney is going to warm up for Professor Stephen Salter. Same exact press conference room, 24 hours earlier, Paul McCartney goes off. 24 hours later. Huh?
That's beautiful. And I want to just weigh in really quickly before I have to go, because I've enjoyed this conversation tremendously. And I don't know how to like put my email in the chat or put my, you know, contact information in a space. Is a right to a healthy meal. A right to a healthy meal.
That's right.
And it's our jobs to ensure that every kid has a healthy food stream from that earliest age, so that we're not trying to convince a 16-year-old to switch to, right, a healthy, plant-based, free, equitable food stream. That's what we really, I feel like if we could move toward that, that's when we're really going to begin to change the imprimatur of our cultural system of what eating for free means, right? And if that's what it is, right, then the conversation, that network conversation, needs to be had with the folks who are contracting with, you know, private companies who at the same time either provide the hotels or prisons to provide the free food to our children that have some percentage of quote unquote real meat. And it's nowhere near the, you know, the same level of quality as, you know, one could get if they went to a Taco Bell at 3 a.m. in the morning. So I would offer that, you know, there's a place to have these conversations with regard to those two. And I think that once we move toward that, then we are really going to move to preparing our planet for being a new planet that we are in love of and in stewardship of. And that's what needs to happen. And it'll happen when we stop, like the first video we saw, right, showed raising trees. And I'm from the Pacific Northwest, and now I live in Detroit. So I'm seeing what it means to live in a community that values health and farmers markets on every corner and having impossible opportunities for students' food at school. I know that it's possible, and I don't know if it's about scaling or, like you said, continuing the conversation and deepening the conversation. But I appreciated being a part of this evening, and please, I'd love to continue to be a part of the conversation.
Awesome.
Candace,
Listen, yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Can I just say, Candace, that was absolutely beautiful. It's one of the best ideas I've heard in here so far. Free food, but free food for children who are already getting free food. Make sure that they're trained right from an early age. That's so amazing. That's really, thank you for that.
Right? Like, I don't want to convince you at 16 that this chicken nugget is the same chicken nugget as the same, you know, chicken nugget that you had before, when in reality, the free food chicken nugget that you had has way less nutritional value, protein support, you know, vitamin acumen within it to support your healthy growth as the ones you're getting that have some element of what we would call, you know, quote unquote, real meat.
Yeah, and of course the whole point is to eliminate meat altogether and go pure plant-based. I mean, what's more nutritious than, like, you know, lentils, fresh produce, beans,
curds, all kinds of
whole grain organic rice, to go with the beans, not some white.
I want my own children see, you know, pure white rice and they're confused, right? I'm with you. Yep.
Exactly.
Rice should have some kind of grain to it. Absolutely.
So mushrooms.
No.
Just had some delicious mushrooms. In fact, I put the camera on my mushrooms just as you started talking about delicious plant-based food. Oh, this is going to taste even better now.
Good stuff.
I've actually been a lot healthier. So it's a definite health boost, because I've just recently sort of been able to convert, because I've been trying to be vegan for years, but all of this encouragement, I've been able to get a lot closer to final target. And I'm always healthier when I'm on my vegan diet. which is
We
very
all
good.
are. We all are. We
Totally.
all are when we're on that whole grain and real food diet. We all are. And just to reiterate that last point that I made, there's a place where students are receiving food for free under private contracts, similarly to a place where people are being held without their choice in correctional facilities and receiving free food. If we want to make vegan food and plant-based food real for everyone, we're going to do it by capitalizing on those spaces and renorming what it means to have free food for people. Free food should be the food with the most dignity, should be the food with the most vitamin, all of the nutritional values that we need from food should come from that. If we don't take care of the least of us, then who do we take care of? And how dare we give our children something that's not going to give them a world 200 years from now that they can still inhabit? And with that, I'm going to say good night, guys.
Candace, thank you so much, sister. Thank you so much for being here, and come back anytime. The 24-hour block party goes for 24 hours straight. Starts at 7 a.m. Pacific every Friday morning. So join us anytime. Great to see you, Candace. All right. So as promised on this session, we're also recording this under the banner of Dear Umair, and that's an awesome story in itself. But, as promised at the very beginning of this recording, what's the root of it? What's the root of it? Like, what do we need to do right now to make this happen? And fortunately, the answer is head to Glasgow, Scotland. Everyone's welcome. Alan, I hope you'll stay with us if that works for you. And please bring your wheels, because we definitely could use a car. And anyway, we'll speaking of Alan, I'm so psyched that Alan, you'll be there and be able to speak in Scottish to the people there. And then we can kind of, it's just that it's your host country. It's your country that's hosting COP this time. So how cool that you'll be there with us on the microphone. And, but the root of it is this: the message needs to be simple. Help us build the network of conversations. Right? Where else are we going to get the goose? Right? So how do people do that? Again, there's 2 steps I outlined earlier. Number 1, join a network of conversations, any network of conversations that's doing anything transformational. And B, help get that network connected to the network of networks, to the true network, what we're calling, the real thing. The Charlotte's Web. Not the unnetwork, but the true network, the real thing, right? And then let's ourselves host as many meetings as we're comfortable hosting on the real thing, the true network, the network of networks, open source, decentralized, blockchainized, totally transparent, no money involved, absolutely no money involved. Like let it not even be, I don't know, we'll talk about that. But I don't see why we should have any involvement of money whatsoever. And because money corrupts inevitably. And, let that be the rallying cry, because once we build the goose, once we build this thing that lays the golden eggs of solutions, not just ideas, but full scale, and all the way to full scale implementation and all the steps in between, which are many, what better way than a network of conversations, or a network of networks in this case? Anyway, passing the talking feather. Love to hear from everyone. I just ask that people be quite concise, because we've got limited a few minutes till I need to leave. And then afterwards, do whatever you want, knock yourselves out. And please stay in the conversation, because it's an awesome place to be. I'm here as much as I can. I just have things to get done before my trip. Passing the talking feather. James, great to see you. What do you think of all this?
Yeah, fantastic, man, and great. I mean, Jewel is a perfect example. They'll know what you're saying. Like, she just reached out to a few friends, and as you see, there are 6 turned up there in a matter of half hour or so, and that's what we're talking about. Basically, is we're only asking people to show up, just show up to the conversation, and it doesn't have to be this conversation. We emphasize that as well. What we're talking about is building a network of conversations. But you're only going to show up to the conversation that is of interest to you, on the subject that interests you, maybe in your local area, or something to raise awareness in your local area for the greater good of your local area. Because at the end of the day, it's coming down to, we have to look after ourselves. We have no other choice when we see it's in the face of us all that we are facing a lot of changes with global warming and everything else. Plus, there's a lot of political wrangling going on over the world, all over the world, but it's not for the greater good of us, the people on the ground. So at the end of the day, it is up to us, we the people, to look after ourselves. So that's the only way we can do that, is we actually get together and have these conversations and connect these conversations and cross-reference these conversations with each other so that we can share ideas and knowledge, not any sort of revolution that would cause any sort of violence in any way whatsoever, but a revolution of a way of life, a revolution of way of thinking and connecting for the greater good of people. Because we either have to do it, we do that and come together for the greater good, or we're going down a very bad path, which we all know in our own heads. We can see that there's nothing good coming, whatever way we may envision it, or whatever way we may relate it to, whether it be global warming, whether it be social collapse, whether it be the rise of fascism and racism and all these other things that are escalating around the world. Whatever it is that is of concern to you. But if you want to get involved in a conversation where you can find people like-minded who think like yourself and want to help and try to do something about it, well, then this is what we're offering. This is what we're talking about. Get off of the floating turd, like Facebook, where people are just passing horrible, nasty letters under each other's doors and running off, scoffing about it, where they feel great, degrading people from afar. But that's not what we're offering. We're offering where people support each other, come together for the greater good, and for the hopefully, that we can collectively come up with enough solutions that we can actually reverse the warming, which we're talking about with ideas like Professor Salter's marine cloud brightening. There's just so many different situations in our lives that we need to tackle. But are we actually the intelligent species that we believe we are? Do you know what I mean? Or are we actually going to get up off our asses and tackle these problems together? Because it's the only way we can do it, together. And we can't depend on leaders to do it for us. It has to be us together to do it. So that's what I say. Join the conversation. So anyone that's interested, get in on the conversation. Get in on this one or whatever. And if you like the conversations here, and there are very, very varied conversations that go on here. This is a 24-hour collective party at the moment on Friday, every Friday. This is the 85th now. So we've been going a while. And there's many other people come in and go out, and nobody's obligated to anything. There's no charge, no fee or anything. But when you become part of the group, what you're doing is not only finding a little solace for yourself in life, but you feel good in the sense that you're actually helping as well, you're contributing. And that's actually in the form of itself is a kind of, it's a kind of medicine, basically. For anyone that may be out there even feeling alone or anything else, you're also finding company with like-minded people. So there's lots of benefits in just helping others, especially helping others, because you're helping yourself too. So I could go on all day about this, but this is the only way we're going to get out of our situation, is by collectively coming together. And, God willing, we'll actually prove it. And we'll also, along the way, realise that we are not the most important species on the planet. We are just one part of a symbiotic planet, a whole planet that is necessary that every life and organism survives on it. So we have to accept that and learn to live with it, in union. So I'll leave it at that. Sorry, I'm blabbing on again, Jamin, as usual.
Oh, goodness. No need to apologize, James. That was perfect. That was absolutely perfect. That's exactly what we're talking about here. It's as simple as that. Alan has a comment. Go for it, Alan. Oh, Alan, you're on mute there. You're on mute.
Oh, sorry. I can push the button right now to book the car, but discussing it's probably off recording. I don't know if.
Yeah, here, let me just pause. Okay, just want to thank everyone for being here today. I got to run, but what an awesome meeting. Oh my goodness. And please carry on. The 24-hour block party continues. Woo! All right. And I'm going to play a couple of videos, including That Is Not My Dog, before I then hit the road, which I need to do with urgency. Anyway, see you all next time. Thanks so much. And thank you for watching and participating in Dear Umair. See you next time. This has been a special edition of Dear Umair on the road to Glasgow. See you next time.